Welcome back, everybody, to Bit About Crypto. I'm David James, your host, and I'm the BTC recruiter. And also, I'm known in most circles as the job whisperer because I'll whisper in your ear and I'll get you that dream job, or I'll tell you how to get it yourself. So, and if you want to reach me, you can find me on Twitter at the BTC recruiter. And once again, as always, most faithful, I'm the Lone Ranger. I guess that would make you... gotta be careful what you say. My faithful companion.
Yeah, where you got it? I was gonna say, where are you going with that?
Dave Hampton, the Robo Recruiter. Yeah. How you been, man?
I'm better now that you almost stepped in it.
I afford other people the opportunity to step in it. It's a gift I've had my own life. So Dave Hampton and we own Blockchain Recruiters. Hey, and everybody, welcome to Bit About Crypto. And Bit About Crypto is a personal interest story where we bring on really, really interesting guests. And the one thing, the common denominator that I have is that blockchain, crypto, or Bitcoin found them. And it was a monumentous. And this is a good way for people to actually learn about all facets of the blockchain space. And of course, most importantly, if you want a job in the blockchain space, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you think your skill sets are. If you have a passion for it, then there's a space, there's a place for you, because this is the new changing way. And so you can actually find us at blockchainrecruiters.net, or you can actually email me, David J, at blockchainrecruiters.net, or you can actually, my faithful companion here, just Dave at blockchainrecruiters.net. And we're a recruiting firm that aggregates people worldwide, full stack developers, front-end developers, Wax, Solidity, you name it. Of course, social media managers, product managers, marketing managers, business development people, compliance managers, portfolio managers. We have them all. So if you've got a blockchain project and you actually need some people, reach out to us. Again, just getting this housekeeping out of the way, at the BTC recruiter. At the BTC recruiter. Anyhow, I guess it's Sunday at 2 o'clock Pacific time if you're listening to this. 5 o'clock on the East. Get ready for that late game.
Yep,
right?
happy hour.
Late games are going to start. Hey, so listen, it's funny because the topic is what I was inspired to talk about this week is how lives have been changed by Bitcoin, specifically because Bitcoin is the beginning, right? I think it's the alpha and the omega. Now there are some other coins, but for me, Bitcoin is a holding. It's a holding, but the other ones are trades, right? If you want to, the only reason I could actually say this is why you should actually have coins, when people say, well, what about these other coins? I said, well, if you have an exit, good luck with that, right? So the thing about it is that Bitcoin has changed so many lives. I mean, literally, it changed our life, right? I mean, we shut down our construction recruiting firm, and what did we do?
We started in blockchain.
Yeah, we repurposed it.
Reinvented.
Right, but what ended up happening is, Jim Ide. Oh, I broke his name. Sorry, Jim. Anyhow, he actually talked.
That's not actually his name.
That's right. That's not actually his name.
Yeah.
He literally said to me, hey, you got to go to the show. Because he got me to Bitcoin in 2013. He's the one that orange pilled me, right? And I knew immediately. And once I could get $2,100, I went out and bought 10 of them, right? And then I wanted to buy 10 more. And the price went from $210 to $380. I go, oh, what a ripoff. I'm not buying that. And then that was December of 2013. It went all the way up to $1,000. I said, oh, man, it's over for me. It's over for me, right? But anyhow, of course, it wasn't over for me.
That was right after you had spoken from Afghanistan.
Yeah, you called me from Afghanistan, and
Yeah.
I subsequently gave you a job a few months later. And that's when we met. We've been pretty much together ever since. But anyhow, he said to me it was May of 2020, he says, hey, there's this thing in Dallas called BitBlock Boom, right? I go, well, what is it? And he goes, no, there's some real Mac daddies there, right? And so I went there, and Robert Breedlove was there, and he was talking about how wealth is being robbed, and Parker, Parker Lewis. And here's where my life kind of changed. When Parker Lewis says, if you're learning about your economy's fiat, your money is failing on TV, it's too late. And I remember I came back from BitBlock Boom, and I was like obsessed. I said,
yes, to say the least.
Yeah, to say the least, right? And I was on Bitcoin, and I started getting you into Bitcoin. You watched, right? You didn't get it at first, but you started watching. You said, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was prior to that, but yeah.
Well, I was talking about Bitcoin all the time. As you know,
you wouldn't stop talking about it.
Yeah, well, I have a T-shirt that says "Warning: May randomly start talking about Bitcoin."
Right? I know. Aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna.
Haven't you worn that before?
I worn that, yeah, for another guest. But so anyhow, I was just amazed and I was in awe. And then what ended up happening is we repurposed our entire recruiting firm, right, at the beginning of 2021, right, should be only blockchain. I mean, we were making some placements in it before, but it's like we're giving everything else up other than the SL42, right, which is another entity that we do for our heart and social capital. But then what ended up happening is you came to BitBlock Boom, and it had like increased like threefold.
Yeah.
And some of the speakers that were there last year have blown up so much as far as their brand and their notoriety and who they influence that I don't want to say they didn't have time for this show, but I guess they didn't have time for the show because, Bitcoin is exponentiating at so many levels. But the fact of the matter is that show actually changed my life. It changed my life because it had my paradigm of thinking on this is the future and I'm ahead of it and I'm not going to be on the fence about this anymore. And so I actually went to the founder, who we're going to talk to. His name is Garry Leland, right? And the thing about it is when you look at me at 57 years old, I'm one of the older guys in Bitcoin, right? But Garry, he's older than me, right? And, he really is very prophetic. I'm going to call him that. He's prophetic in what he actually saw as a vision because I'm pretty sure that the BitBlock Boom conference only started with, I think, 15, 30 people, about 30 people, and that would have been 2018, I'm guessing. But Gary's going to clean it up for us. So anyhow, I'm probably like bashing him. So I'm going to let him speak for himself. So with no further ado, please welcome to A Bit About Crypto, Mr. Garry Leland, the founder of BitBlock Boom, annually in August in Dallas, Texas. Oh, this year in Austin.
Last weekend in August every year. And this weekend, this year we're moving to 2023. We're moving to Austin, Texas. I think that's one of the hubs of the U.S. for Bitcoin.
Yeah. Wait.
So that was the place to do it.
So 2022 is still in Dallas?
No, Austin.
No, I'm sorry. 2022 is in Austin.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Any way to move this conference to a time when it's not so freaking hot?
Well, that's what really makes it is because it's in August and it is the last week in August, dude. It's not.
Dude, it's hot in Dallas or Texas. I'm from Texas, so I grew up in this humid, God's forsaken, awful weather during the summer.
Well, the thing is, though, you're in AC, then you walk outside for 4 minutes to get in the Uber, and you're in AC again. Then you walk out your Uber into a building.
Yeah, but you can't even enjoy the outside weather. Like if we did it in October, like mid-October, like after ACL in Austin. I mean,
can't do it October. Football, Longhorns. That hotel would go up so high.
We got a good thing with BitBlock Boom, just the way it is. And Garry, I want to apologize for my rude.
Just a friendly request.
My rude.
Consider
my rude host. How dare you would talk to the OG of Bitcoin conferences that way?
Friendly request.
The audacity that you would actually say.
I am very audacious.
I'll file your request where I filed the rest of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
Right there in the restroom. That's where you get the paperwork started.
Yeah.
So
very spicy.
So Garry.
I think actually, if it wasn't for the fact it was in August, it may not be as big as it is now.
Absolutely.
During COVID, nobody had a conference all year. And then I had a conference in August, and I think around July, people started realizing this conference was going to happen. And they had not been to a conference all year. By that time, maybe they'd been to 3 or 4, and they never would have come to Texas. But they said, a conference? I haven't been to a Bitcoin conference all year. I'm going. Then they came, and they said, wow, I love it. And now they don't bitch about the weather because they love the conference.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. They're grateful for the opportunity to go. I get it. Touche.
So Garry, I want to talk a little bit about you. I know you're a little shy and introverted, but just do your best. All right. So,
So really, I've been my whole life. I'm getting over it.
Yeah, you're just, I know you're going to Toastmasters. You're trying to get it through, but seriously, so talk about your childhood, like from when you were born, your brothers, sisters, sports, all the way up to through high school. What was your life like?
Well, I was born on Tuesday at 6 o'clock in the evening. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, on Well, I grew up downtown, close to like in the historic district that everybody goes to. But in like second grade, we moved out to an island. And so then I soon became, by fifth grade, I guess I was a surfer. And I was surfed my whole life till I moved to Texas. I mean, I got a new surfboard every year, hung out at the surf shop all the time, would buy my surfboard, resell it the next year to like someone in the Air Force or the Army, a tourist, and I could go buy a new one. They'd let us pay like $5 a week or something for our surfboards, you know, if you were like a regular at the surf shop. So I spent a lot of my time surfing, but I also kept starting businesses too. It's kind of funny when I think on it, because I had a lawnmower business, but I hated cutting grass. So I pay other kids in the neighborhood to cut these yards. And then I would go around getting the business for cutting yards. And we would kind of split the profits on doing the yard.
I did the same thing in Wyoming when I was there, sent there for the summer, but probably not as big a scale as you, but go on.
And then I used to go out to the golf course on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'd go to the hole the farthest away during the summer, and I'd bring Cokes and sell them. You know, it's funny. I figured, I didn't realize how poor we must have been until I started thinking about that. We would buy a case of Cokes, and they would be like 5 cents a piece, I guess, or something. And we'd put them in the freezer. I'd put them in the freezer at night to freeze solid so that I'd have cold Cokes most of the day.
Were these bottles or cans?
Were we so poor we didn't have a cooler? Did we not have...
Wait, were these bottles or cans?
Cans. Like,
okay,
you'd have like a 10% waste.
Okay.
You know, that blew up.
Okay.
You know, but
I
you
was
had
going to
to
say,
settle for
weren't they
that.
going to explode?
Okay.
They did.
Yeah.
And the first people who got there and wanted one, because you were so far away from the clubhouse, and like people got there at like 9 a.m, theirs was frozen solid.
Right.
You know? but by 1 o'clock, they were just cold.
Okay.
Then I could it was by the water hole. I could fish out the golf balls that they hit into the water hole. It was only like 3 feet deep. So I'd wade in there and get them and sell those to other golfers coming by.
Right.
I did that for like 3 or 4 years as a kid.
Okay.
That was kind of fun.
Did you move to Hilton Head? Is that where you moved?
No, James Island.
Okay, James. I like James.
It's right outside of Charleston. Yeah, right outside. When I was there, it was just wooded land. Now it's all condos when I go back.
Interesting.
And so, but it was just wooded land. We'd either be at the beach or in the woods, you know, building forts and campsites. I remember we made a 3-story log cabin one time. Took us several years to accomplish this, but every year we'd add another layer or something. You know, we camp out 4 days a week. You know,
interesting.
So we were on the go. We really didn't do much in the house.
What'd your parents do?
My mother was a private secretary for a one-person bond office, and I think this guy just was real rich and he wanted an office. I think she just opened his mail and typed his letters. I don't think she really did much beside that. Uh-huh. And my dad was a welder.
Okay.
I worked at the Naval Shipyard. Matter of fact, my whole street worked at the Naval Shipyard. So, I mean, it'd be about 20 cars that would go to work, and each one of them would have 5 people in it. They all went to the same destination. So,
okay.
That was their goal, was for me to go to the Naval Shipyard too. They made me even go out and take the test, government employees test, when I was a senior in high school. And I took it, and they forced me to go out there and take it. I didn't want to take it because I didn't want to do that. So when the test, I think I just signed the test and turned it in. and then I came home, and then I remember like 2 or 3 weeks later, my dad came in, and my dad was a real nice guy, but he wasn't a rocket scientist or a hard worker. I mean, he didn't like working hard either. He just wanted to like get by. And he goes, I saw the results today and you didn't pass the test. I said, really? And he goes, I don't know how that's possible. You're the smartest kid in our family. And he goes, I even passed that damn test. How did you not pass it?
So tell me about your brothers and sisters and where you are on the food chain in the line of succession.
I was the youngest by far. And when you get to be the youngest of 3. And so if you're the youngest, I think everybody who's the youngest knows you get to do whatever you want because they've already gone through that being harsh and strong with the older ones that have given up by the time it comes to you. You know, so I pretty much ruled the place.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, if you're the youngest, you do whatever. And
I have 4 kids.
If like 5 and you're the middle, you kind of like her the second old again, you know, because you got to help out or something. That's what my sister said. Yeah. My wife said.
I have 4 kids, and my youngest gets away with she can get away with anything with everyone. Like,
like my brother couldn't like ever even go out and drive a car. He couldn't do anything, and he left and joined the Army to get Vietnam just to get out the house, you know, and get away from my parents. And I was like maybe 6 at the time, you know. So by the time I went up, my sister gone through. I actually did what. This is kind of a funny story if we can tell a personal story.
Go ahead.
I lived in like Tobacco Alley, basically. Everybody smoked when I was a kid anyway. And if you lived in South Carolina in Tobacco Land, cigarettes were everywhere. And so I was in maybe 8th grade, 9th grade, and Mom and I were driving home from church. It was just us two. And my mom and dad smoked. And she said, Gary, your dad and I agreed that if you ever start smoking, we just want to give you a heads up. We'd rather you do it behind our backs, I mean, in front of us instead of behind our backs. We don't want to be hypocrites. We smoke. So if someday you decide to smoke, please let us know. And I said, really? And she goes, yeah, I still remember this. I remember where we were at, even on the highway. I pulled out a pack of Marlboros and lit one up.
In the car.
In the car. I don't think she was prepared for that. I think she was thinking like in 2 or 3 years. Then I could smoke at my house. And so everybody came into my house to go in my room and hang out because we could all smoke cigarettes. And then my parents went and going, what do I smell? And then at my high school, you could smoke at high school. And so all you had to have was a letter from your parents saying Gary has permission to smoke cigarettes.
Wow.
And you could smoke cigarettes at the high school.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty funny though, my parents.
Well,
I doubt they do that anymore. Let's just smoke cigarettes.
I mean,
they're all about health today.
My story's not nearly as cool, right? But like in 1977, right? My stepmother smoked, and she would 78. She would write me a note because you had to be 18 to buy cigarettes in the People's Republic of California, and and so basically, what we would start doing was we just write our own notes. Right, to get cigarettes. It's like they don't care. Yeah, that doesn't fly anymore. So when you actually got out of high school, I always ask most of my guests this: you're at the time you're 18, of like emancipation age. What were you thinking? What were your intentions? What was your life going to be? Where were you headed?
Well, when I got out of high school, I spent my last 2 years, my senior and sophomore year, working at a clothing store. It was like a chain store. Maybe they had 14 stores, and it was the only store they had in the South. They were from out of Claremont, Delaware, I think. And as soon as I got out of high school, I went to work for them, taking over a new branch. And I was actually going to get in the clothing business. I mean, start a clothing store or something. And before that, I was going to be an artist because I took like 6 years of art. But that didn't appeal to me as much as I liked selling stuff. I mean, I always did when I was a kid. And that gave me an opportunity to sell stuff, and I liked having nice clothes. So I really enjoyed the clothing business, and I was going to open a clothing store. I was trying to learn a skill enough to open a clothing store. So I don't think I've ever told anyone that knows me now.
Welcome to the show.
People who knew me then. Yeah, maybe.
Welcome to the show. That's what this show is all about.
Yeah. Right? So I was going to be. I even went to a bank to find out how to go about getting a small business loan to open my first store and buy products and stuff like that. But I didn't follow that up. I moved into cable TV, working for a cable TV company. At the time, cable TV was brand new. Nobody had it. Well, a few places had it, but most of the country didn't have it. I worked for a company. We would travel the country, going into new markets that had cable TV and teaching the people how to go door to door selling cable TV. And we'd usually be in a town about 3 months, 4 months, get everything set up, and we'd move on.
Do you remember the name? Do you remember the name of the cable company?
Store Cable.
Okay.
STORER. We worked for a subcontract company called Southern Services.
Do you remember what year this was?
1977, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Maybe it was after the bicentennial. I know that for sure. 77, maybe 78. And I moved to Dallas. Well, actually, Grand Prairie, Texas, which was at the time was like the armpit of Dallas-Fort Worth. And they were the first city, though, to get cable TV. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about it is I remember like 1978, we finally got cable, right? And we got Channel 100, it was called. It was just Channel 100. It played the same movie over and over again. Then it played 2 movies. And then HBO was the thing that came on cable. You had these 2 channels.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, when I first started, you had HBO and something called maybe the Family Channel, which was terrible. They went out of business. But HBO, you got regular cable. Maybe there were 13 or 14 channels. You got home box office. And some people would describe it as, you'd sell it as a younger kid that you were trying to sell to. They go, that's got dirty movies on it, right?
Yeah.
You go, yeah. And you go, I want that. And then old folks like me, I guess, they probably were my age. They'd go, don't want that crap. Always had only 3 channels. Only need 3 channels.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So it's according to where you hit. If you went through an old neighborhood, oh my gosh, you were trying to get that finished as fast as you could because you were making no money. But if you got one time we hit an air base, housing in the air base, and these guys traveled the world, so they knew. They were just waiting for it. And actually, I think that week we made so much money that week back then in those dollars. One of the people with us bought a car, brand new Thunderbird car, Firebird car, the big one with the big eagle on the front. Paid cash for those in a week. We would clean up. It took you like 1 minute to make a sale. I would knock on all 4 doors of the complex. When they opened the doors, I'd give them a pitch at one time and hand them 4 applications. We were just rocking. It was amazing.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because like when I got out of the service, I literally would be the gals would like telemarket. This was like in 84, 85, something like that, and they'd say, hey, if you get HBO, you get free installation. And people would hear 2 words. They hear HBO and the word free. Then I'd get there to install it, and I'd have to resell it again. Right? But anyhow.
That's all we did. That's what we did. And actually, when I was like on those air bases, I'd go, I'm here taking orders for HBO. I didn't tell them anything else. They knew nothing. And I said, what should I get? I said, you need the full package. Okay. They had no idea what they were doing. Now, some people with me, they would spend a half an hour, 45 minutes going, this is the family channel. Oh, this is ESPN. It has sports. It takes half an hour to get one. Me, I'd done 20 sales by the time they did one. I mean, they didn't need all that info.
You got no time to waste time. Right.
Yeah.
So
I got no time for that.
And I think based on your background, on what I know about it, that influence on cable, you actually saw the power of multimedia and being able to like broadcast things, and that you kind of went in that direction. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I guess my next move was I got into cable and I started. I was pretty good at going door to door. I mean, let's face it, I was pretty good at it. And back then in the early 80s, maybe 81, the housing market here in Dallas-Fort Worth was like on fire. I mean, the house for sale part of the paper was bigger than my whole newspaper back home.
Wow.
So and mini blinds had just come out, those small 1-inch mini blinds.
Yeah.
So my wife and I invested maybe $65 into samples and a drill to install them. And we started driving down streets of new neighborhoods, houses for sale, leaving flyers and knocking on the doors on weekends for extra money. And gosh, we were making $1,000, $2,000, $4,000 a weekend. And this is back in $81.
Well, that's huge.
We thought it was never going to end. We were flying to Europe for the money we made off of mini blind sales, renting limos to go party at night. We thought it'd never end. And so that did kind of end though, because Home Depot started carrying it. It was popular. Everybody started carrying it, but we converted it into wallpaper. Then we ended up with the largest wallpaper store. I'm really shortening this. I know it sounds long. Ended up with the largest wallpaper store in Texas. And then in 96, that's where it really changed. We got on the internet. I started a website in 96. One of the first websites, probably the first website for wallpaper. All my manufacturers, I would contact them and say, hey, do you have pictures I could use for this? And they said, that's stupid as hell. No one's going to buy wallpaper on the internet. We're not even going to send you any. So we had digital cameras weren't even out. So we would scan pictures out of the wallpaper book and make a website. We made the website. And like I said, that became the first website for e-commerce. So that's where I really started getting on developing internet and e-marketing and stuff like that, was that store, which we just sold. I mean, we started it in 96. We started the e-store, started the store in like 83, and we just sold it like this July. I'm out of all my businesses. I'm into Bitcoin 100% now. I've gotten rid of all my companies. Well, and all I do is Bitcoin.
And you promote your BitBlock Boom.
Well, that's Bitcoin.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, everything I do is Bitcoin related.
Oh yeah, like in Swan and all that those kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's Bitcoin related. Yeah. Bitcoin is such an open market right now. You literally can do any business and say, I want to be a Bitcoin company, and say, what business am I doing? How do I turn this into a Bitcoin-based business?
Well, let's stop. Let's stop for a second. Since you brought it up, how did Bitcoin find you?
Well, I think that was a pretty typical story. It was a 3-tap story for me. I think most people I meet got told about it 3 times, and the third time they were told about it. But the first 2 times I was told it was like internet stocks, which I hadn't done well at that in the past. But the third time I ran into a friend at a conference talking to some other people about it, and I came up halfway through, and I said, hey, Tony, can you start over? I didn't hear all that. And we went and sat on the couch. This was like speaking. I probably spoke at 12, saw him at 1. And at 6 o'clock, when the conference ended for the day, we were still sitting on the couch talking.
What year was this, Gary? What year was this?
2017.
Okay.
So that night, I went home and bought Bitcoin. I listened to a podcast on the way home about Bitcoin. because I was pretty big into podcasting. So I listened to podcasts all the time. And that night I bought Bitcoin, and my wife was off the hook about it, going, "That's just made up money, Gary. That's just made up money."
Yeah.
Every time I kept buying and buying, and I kept hearing that.
So do you remember? Do you remember when in 2017?
It wasn't on the run up. It was before the run up.
Yeah. So what month do you think it was?
At the end of the year, it was like August. It was like
4,000. 4,000.
No, mate. No, it was like 3,500. I think.
Okay.
I think it's 3,500.
You're splitting hairs with me now. The fact that I could go back that far. You tell me.
Well, you remember the pricing. That's pretty good, because I think that year it went up to
20,000.
19. Yeah. And then it was as low maybe earlier in the year as a few thousand, but it had gone up, I think, to 7, and then dipped back down when I bought it. I just lucked up that it had dipped. It wasn't like I was studying it. I was going to buy it. So I probably got twice as much, as I would have if I had bought it a month earlier.
Right. Well, Gary, I swear to God, your enthusiasm and your zeal and just who you are, I thought you were you got the Bitcoin like in 2012. I did. I mean, this is the first time we talked about this.
Well,
because
I think I was first heard about it in 2012.
Yeah.
I think it was like $100 when I was first told about it. The guy who told me it was online stocks. I think it was $100 when he told me.
So this is amazing. So 2017, and you started the BitBlock Boom literally the next year, the first one.
Like 4 months, 5 months later, I started planning it. Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. I had another conference called Podcast Movement. I started that I had sold at this time, and it had maybe 3,500 people at it the last time I owned it. Now it's owned by some other people, but I was kind of new about doing conferences. And when I want to learn something, I kind of just jump in it and get really involved in it as hard as I can. I think that's the best way to learn. I'm not really good at finding time to sit around and read and absorb information. So I just rather get involved in it and learn from meeting people. That's why I started the podcast originally. I started a podcast after a month, to meet people. Yeah,
I want to parent something for our listeners, right? Because I know that on this show we talk about people, we talk about jobs in the Bitcoin space, et cetera, et cetera. But Gary actually created a Bitcoin maximalist show. This is only Bitcoin. You can't come and talk about anything other than Bitcoin. You can't come and exhibit anything alternative to that. It's just, and he did this before the Bitcoin LA actually was moved to Bitcoin Miami. Okay, I just want to give props. See, this was the first Bitcoin conference ever, right?
Yeah, it's definitely the longest running for sure. And it just turned out that way. It just happened. I just wanted to meet some people. It's funny though, you said earlier about how big my first conference was. You're pretty much right. I think maybe we had 35, 40 people, but I had invited Pierre Richard, Michael Goldstein, Safety and the Moose. I had all these people that said, "Yeah, we'll come." And I didn't have anyone buying tickets because it was so new. I was out every night, me and my buddy, going to meetups, giving away damn tickets just because we needed to have people there. And but the one thing was, we did have one sponsor that wanted to be the platinum sponsor. We had no other sponsors. He could have been the silver and got as much exposure, but he wanted to be the platinum, and he asked if he could pay him Bitcoin. And we said, yeah. And I think Bitcoin at the time was $7,000. It had dipped after the run up. It was $7,000, and he paid us 1.5 Bitcoin to pay the $10,000 sponsorship. So, and of course, I never sell my Bitcoin. So that was a pretty cool deal. That was a great conference. I made a ton of money off of it.
Yeah.
And my partner didn't want to do the conference the next year. He goes, we were lucky to do that conference. We didn't make any money. What's the chance we'll ever get a sponsor again? I'm just going to give you the conference. I don't want to be in it anymore. I said, I think we did great. I mean, if we broke even, I thought we did great. I don't think you can do a conference first year and think you're going to clean up.
Yeah.
You break even. I think you've done great.
Hold on a second. I'm going to control this narrative. Okay. So that was 2018. You had about 35. 2019, you had how many? About
2019.
About 70.
Maybe
70.
Yeah. No. Maybe 100. Maybe 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then 2020, you had like 300.
We had COVID in 2020.
Well, you still had 300. You had 300 people there.
No, I'm gonna say 250.
Okay, 250.
225, 250.
250.
And last year we were at 300 and something, but it's crazy. Last year we had 70 people that bought tickets, and tickets aren't cheap to BitBlock Boom. never showed up.
Yeah, well, hold
on.
Well, just so you know, that's this year for our audience. That's BitBlock Boom, like literally last month of August,
like 3 months ago.
Last season, and now you're practically already sold out, aren't you?
Well, last year we sold out, and to be honest, we sold out in February last year for August.
Right.
But we wanted a smaller conference. But now we've moved to Austin. We have a much bigger center. We've sold, my gosh, everything's selling like crazy. I mean, sponsorships are selling like no tomorrow. I just can't believe it. And everything's selling like crazy. We'll be sold out again probably in February, because it's a much bigger spot. We'll probably be 700 this year. So, but we'll sell out by February, I would think.
Yeah, I want to speak to the audience for a second. So, and Gary, just, do you mind me saying how old you are?
No, I'm 66.
80 what? No. so Gary,
67 in March. Yeah. I'll even go like a kid. I'm 66 and a half.
The century mark.
So Gary is a septuagenarian. All right. He's in his 7th decade of life. And he actually had the wherewithal, right? Because Gary's handle is the Bitcoin boomer, right? He's the boomer generation. Yeah. I'm the very last year of the baby boomers, 1964. And if you look at us as a species in the Bitcoin space, we're like 5%. Right, because Bitcoin, this new blockchain technology, this dawning of the age of Aquarius, is literally it's the new generation. It's the millennial. It's Generation X. All these speakers, all these prophetic people that are embarking and proselytizing and evangelizing Bitcoin. They're so much younger than us. But Gary had this vision that there was something here. And what I found, especially on Bitcoin, is and it happened for me. It's like there's just no denying it. The ridicule. I mean, when I asked, I would be with my buddies on the golf course, and I told them that I had Bitcoin, and they told me I was idiots. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I've heard that. And for what the price of Bitcoin is right now, I really am glad to be that idiot. But however, I want to come back, and he had the wherewithal, and there's this congregation of this learning tribe that's come together, then exponentiated, and since he started BitBlock Boom, there have been so many companies like Swan Bitcoin that have come out where you can actually get Bitcoin and you don't have to buy it from an exchange. You can actually get it and it goes directly to your wallet, and it's the cheapest place to buy it. But the important thing for me is you need to remember, I'm a recruiter, right? And the reason, and I really don't have to stay a recruiter anymore, right? I've got Bitcoin has given me a new kind of freedom, and I know you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right, but I do it because there's nothing more powerful to me than helping somebody get daily bread, right? And I can't just recruit in the Bitcoin space, even though my ideology is the strongest. It's like the Mac Daddy of the coins. Some of the influencers and the confluencers that made my decisions were the people that I met because of your show. So because you actually had the courage to put up your money and take a loss, right? Back in 2018, you changed my life profoundly. But there are other people who I've actually spoken to who have said, hey, I met these people at BitBlock Boom, and because of Garry Leland, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but this is important work. And if you don't mind, because can you talk about it? Because I don't want.
Yeah, I don't mind at all. It really excites me more than anything. Let's face it. I'm 66. I've had a very successful life before Bitcoin. So when I got into Bitcoin, I was able to get into it. I mean, I wasn't like, waiting to hope to get one, in other words. So I've had a very successful
hoping to get one Bitcoin, you're saying.
Yeah, okay. A lot of people, that's the goal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It has been for a while.
A whole coin.
Let's face it, only 21 million people can have one. So let's face it,
that's a good goal. Not even that.
That's right, because they're not getting any of mine. So I just cut it down.
Yeah.
And Michael Saylor cut it down pretty damn big.
And Satoshi, he locked up 1 million and then up and died. Yeah. Right.
So that's something that really I get excited about. Like I guess. Well, at BitBlock Boom, someone came up to my wife, who I had helped 2 years earlier who was in college at the time. And he went to A&M, I helped him and his buddy come. I gave him a pass, to come. They were students. And he said, as soon as he got out of school, because of someone he met at BitBlock Boom, he was able to get his dream job getting out of college. He told my wife this. My wife came and told me about it. I said, oh, yeah, I know who that is. And then this weekend, I was in Austin with a bunch of Bitcoiners. For some reason, all went to the F1 races in Austin. And we spent all weekend. We had a bus and we went to the F1 races. It was a blast. But I stopped at Riot Bitcoin. They're mining down here now, and they had a stock owners day to view it. So I stopped on the way down. And like their chief financial person came up to me and introduced herself, said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. And I just want to let you know you changed my life. I went to BitBlock Boom last year, and now I have my dream job because of coming to BitBlock Boom, and the people I met were able to connect me." And then we have my best friend in the world, his daughter. I talked her into showing art last year at BitBlock Boom. Marissa Angeli or Marissa Jean.
Yeah, she's going to be our guest next week. So anyhow,
she's a great gal.
Talk about this. Talk in detail about this, because I actually witnessed this firsthand. Talk about this.
Well, she's just not only a great person, but has great skill, a great artist.
She's amazing.
And she went to school to learn how to do digital art for like gaming companies, and that's what she's been doing. But before that, she was a classical artist. She really painted on canvas. But for the last few years, she's been doing maybe the NBA games or something. I don't know what she's creating, but she's one of the few women that are into that. And I saw her at, went over to watch football with Mark or something. He has a great man cave. And I said, you need to start doing art for Bitcoin. No one's doing really great original painted oil paintings or whatever for art. As a
Bitcoin hodler, as a Bitcoin theorist, right? Not just somebody who's copying it for tourists. So that makes sense.
No. Hers is all original artwork. It's great art. And it takes her a while to do it. I mean, it's great. She showed me finally. I talked her into it. She said she's going to start painting some stuff. I went over to Mark's, have a few drinks. She said, "Let me show you. I've done it." I'm like, oh my gosh, these are great. I said, these are way better than I even imagined. And so she took maybe 8 pieces to BitBlock Boom.
And of course, I bought the first piece.
Congratulations! You bought the one with the ticker symbol.
That's correct.
Candles.
Yeah, it's called Anticipation with the nude gal sitting underneath there.
Right.
Everybody loves that except for my wife.
Yeah.
My wife says, "Hey,
that's a good piece."
Yeah, I said, "Who you gonna?" She says, "Who you gonna gift that to?" And I said, I didn't say anything. I wanted.
I think this year she's going to paint. She had mostly big pieces.
Yeah.
And I think this year she's going to add more smaller pieces too. So she's already working now for next year's BitBlock Boom.
Hold on
She's a great artist. This is going to change her life.
If Bitcoin goes to 30,000, then she should go with the smaller pieces. But if Bitcoin's like 200,000, she should go I
think she's going to have both.
10 by 10. That's 45,000 right there. Yeah.
She ought to have a sign up. "I'll come paint your wall in your house."
Yeah, right. I was trying to explain to her. I said, "You got to get out. You got to move from here. You got to get out the hallway when the party is, because there's going to be people with alcohol in them and lots of Bitcoin." So, but anyhow, that's...
Well, I was scared earlier. I had to try to decide where to put her. And I was scared earlier, if I put her there, there'd be so many people in the hallway, no one would actually be able to see it from a distance. You'd be standing right up on it. So I moved it to a place where she could spread it out. But as the party started and everybody left, she moved down there, and that was a great spot.
Right. So but here's another thing that I think is really important. So when I was at BitBlock Boom during COVID in last week of August 2020, right? There were 5 out of 200 people, or however many there was, 250. There were 10 females. I mean, I'm not talking about Kelly and your wife and the people that came. Right. I'm talking about attendees. This year, the female concentration was 30%. 30% of the entire population was female, and that really, I'm encouraged about that. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, well, before I do that though, I got another funny story for you.
Let's
friend of mine came who I orange pilled, and he wanted to come to the conference, and he was talking to someone. He said, "Wow, there aren't any women here." This was in 2020.
Right.
So there really aren't any women here, and the guy goes, "What do you mean? There's at least 7 here. That's a lot."
Yeah, right.
And it was for them.
Yeah.
Because I think the year before we had 2. So
and I want to give a shout out to Erica Gemma, right? Because I met her there, and she told Michael Saylor, because they're both from Miami. She told Michael Saylor in April of 2020 about Bitcoin, or maybe I got and he said, "Yeah, it's never going to work." Kind of like internet stocks. So anyhow, she was there.
The whole story on that.
Yeah.
She was there.
Yeah.
That's where I met her at. Actually, I didn't meet her until the Sunday brunch.
Right.
And she came up and introduced herself. And I like Erica a lot. She's really
well. What
nice
she's
person.
doing for how she's evangelizing and she's empowering women right? Her story's amazing. She actually was a guest on the show when very, very renowned. But anyhow, you were saying about.
I was just saying it's just growing like crazy. I would imagine we're going to have more women, a higher percentage there next year. It's funny. This weekend we had the event I was at was a ton of women at compared to normal. So I think women are now understanding that this is a financial situation, and I think a lot of the finances are controlled by women. I know on our daily house for years, our stuff, my wife has controlled all the money and handled everything.
Same with my wife.
I just give her my paycheck. She gets her paycheck and she takes care of everything. She doesn't ask me jack. Now I do all the stuff with BitBlock Boom and buying Bitcoin when I want to buy it. But
here's what I say. I'm the chief revenue officer. She's the chief financial officer. Right?
She is at my house. Yeah. She's way better than I am.
Same with my wife. Same 100%. So it's really, really funny because so here's the part of the show. Well, let's just stop. Hey, Travis, let's get a word from our sponsor. Who's our sponsor this week?
Well, none other than blockchainrecruiters.net.
What are the odds? That happens to be me and David. We actually happen to own Blockchain Recruiters. And so I want to reemphasize, right? We aggregate every type of people in the blockchain space, from the technical side to the marketing, to the creative, to the social media, community managers, portfolio managers, anything you need in the blockchain crypto space, we actually aggregate worldwide. Okay, so if you need a job, come find us. If you need people in the blockchain space, we aggregate them when we have them. And that's about enough out of that. Anything more you want to say about that?
We find, we attract, we enroll,
and we compel. That's right. Everybody knows how to find somebody. You can't enroll and compel them.
Right. That's what you will be paying for.
We get them to sign on the line.
That's right.
That is dotted.
Yeah.
All right.
It's all and you get the right people, and we make sure that you guys aren't wasting time on the wrong people. That's
right. And remember, if you're coming to us, you're coming for value, not price. Anyhow, back to our. Now we got that out of the way. Let's go back to Garry. So Garry, just. And I really don't want you to hypothesize on the price because we know it's going to go up. But what just do you see in the future of Bitcoin? What kind, as far as how it's going to change the job market?
Well, I think it's going to change the whole world. I mean,
clearly.
Of course, if it's changing the whole world, it's going to change the job market. I've really done a lot of thinking about how it's going to change the job market. I know people will be getting paid in Bitcoin. People are already asking to be paid in Bitcoin. So, and now with services like BTC Pay server, making you able to have your income sent straight to them and they send it straight back to you as Bitcoin is getting easier and easier. So I don't know how it's going to change work. I think that would be a stretch for me to say since I've never thought about that. But it's basically, though, I mean, let's face it, it's going to change. Everything as we know it today is going to change. And it's going to be for the good long term. Some people are going to get hurt. Because some people are going to get hurt in this economy, the way it's destroying, and they've got typical assets. They've got their money in cash, which is, they're saying it's 5% inflation now. But nobody believes that it's 5%. They say 2% when it's 5%.
Right.
So a lot of people are keeping their money in cash and getting killed. Of course, the stock market's doing good because of inflation. It's doing good also
for now,
and the money being pumped in. Yeah, for now. And a lot of people have their money in traditional stocks. I'm pretty much 100%. In Bitcoin, except my house, my house and my cars and my art. Everything else, if it's an investment, it's in Bitcoin. So for me,
here's what I want to say to you. So I'm asked, based on the fact that I've got this podcast, right? I got people calling me. One person asked me. He actually said to me, he says, "What's the most important thing I need to know about?" holding Bitcoin, right? And believe it or not, it's not your keys, not your coins. I mean, of course but I said the most important form of evangelism I have is decentralization, right? And people think that what they actually have when they've got a Coinbase or a Gemini or a Kraken account, and they say, yeah, I've got Bitcoin. And I say, yeah, actually you don't, right? Because the government could actually seize your Bitcoin off an exchange.
Well, I think that is not your keys, not your Bitcoin.
Right. But when you say it to them, not your keys, not your coins, they don't quite understand until you explain it that way. That's all I was saying. Yeah, of course.
No, and I agree. I agree 100%. And I was telling Kathy last night, we talked to one of our relatives, younger relatives, and now I'm known as the Bitcoin guy. Whenever I go to any family event, people come up to me and goes, "Hey, I just want you to know I bought some Bitcoin last year." I go, "Great. I go, where'd you buy it at?" Because I'm always just curious because I bought it at Coinbase. Well, that's not great. I said, "Where do you have it now?" He goes, "Coinbase." I said, "Dude, you need to move it." I said, "That's not a bank. It's really not. There's no FDIC. A lot of people think it's a bank and they can leave their money there, and they can't. I
got a better story than that. I was actually driving to Las Vegas, not this trip, but when we come out here to podcast. And I called the BMW service, like the concierge. Like, I just recently got this new BMW car. Thank you, Bitcoin. And I'm talking to her, and she said, well, what are you doing in Vegas? I said, well, I'm doing a podcast. What's your podcast about? I said, well, it's about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And she says, oh, my whole family, we have Bitcoin. And I said, well, yeah, where do you have it? They said, PayPal. Right? And then I had to explain it to her. I said, yeah, you really don't have any Bitcoin. I mean, unlike Coinbase or Gemini, you can actually take it off and put it in a private wallet.
Yeah, you actually have a connection to real Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, but the people don't know. They just don't know, because we're in this mindset of like the GLD ETF thing. I've got some gold. It's like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
If you can't bite into it with your teeth, you don't have gold. That's all I'm going to say.
It's more GLD than there is gold in existence.
That's correct. That's correct. So last thing is, what do you think of the recent times where we are right now with this Bitcoin futures ETF? Do you actually have an opinion one way?
I've had a concern. I was talking to Nick Bocci about this about 3 weeks ago, and we didn't even know the ETF was going to happen. I've always had a concern that with ETFs, it would be like gold ETFs, and you'd have more Bitcoin in ETFs than there is Bitcoin in existence, and it would artificially deflate the price because they were manipulating it through the ETF. And then when I heard the futures, that's expensive. I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're a big corporation, you can't actually buy Bitcoin on your books. Maybe you want to do it, but that's so expensive to get in and out. I think it's good for Bitcoin and the fact that people will go, well, gosh, if the SEC says you can do Bitcoin futures, Bitcoin's okay to buy. It's not going to be made illegal anytime soon. That's what I'm thinking. And so that's good for Bitcoin. And I think Gensler said there wouldn't be a Bitcoin-backed ETF until there was a Bitcoin futures ETF. So maybe we're one step closer to a Bitcoin-backed ETF, because now we have a futures ETF. I don't know what is the reasoning behind that statement, but that was said, I think.
So I'm going to say my personal opinion. This is editorial. I don't think Bitcoin needs an ETF to rise. It's going to rise. Now, maybe it's going to rise faster, but now once there's an actual Bitcoin ETF, if they're going to really have real Bitcoin, if it's like, look what happened with GameStop and the naked shorts with that. I could see, because, basically the rule on Wall Street is we'll commit any crime and we'll get away with it. We'll just pay a fine. And
the fine will be way less than we made.
That's right. Yeah. And so what worries me is now that Wall Street can manipulate the price of Bitcoin. Because what we have right now, for the most part, is natural, authentic, organic price discovery on it. So
and I think we're way ahead of where I would have thought we would be right now.
Price wise?
Well, just where it's at in the economy. I would have thought corporations would just be getting into them. Now they've been into it. They're all into it. Countries are getting into it. I would have never thought countries were getting into it by now. El Salvador is into it. They're talking Brazil is going to get into it. I would have never thought any country would be into it by now. So I think we're way ahead of where we should be, where people thought we would be. Everybody thought it was going to do what it's doing. But I think COVID put it on steroids.
Sure did.
And all of a sudden sped everything up. This is all going to happen. It's inevitable. But it just all of a sudden, man, it's on steroids. And gold's not moving. Silver's not moving. Why? Because people were putting their money in Bitcoin.
That's right.
Imagine if Bitcoin wasn't around. Gold and silver.
10,000. 10,000. Yeah. Gold would be 10,000 with all this nonsense.
That'd be the only safe asset they could think to move it in.
Yeah.
But now they're going, who wants to move it into gold and silver when I can move it into Bitcoin? And if I have to leave the country, all I got to do is memorize 12 words, and I can go anywhere in the world I want.
Tattoo it to your body. Tattoo it to your body, and in random act.
Yeah, try hauling 100 pounds of gold or 100 pounds of silver out of the country.
That's right. Garry Leland, tell everybody about your project and where they can find you.
Well, I'm going to tell you about two projects real quick. I got BitBlock Boom at BitBlockBoom.com. I'm trying to make it the best conference in the world, but I have a new project I want to make sure you know about called BitBlock Party at BitBlockParty.com. Consensus is moving to Austin. That's a huge conference, huge Ethereum conference. They haven't been able to have it in 2 years in New York because it's shut down.
Right.
So they finally got smart and said, we need to go somewhere that's not shut down. They're coming down to Austin, Texas. So we've rented a 2-story nightclub down on 5th Street, Friday night at Consensus. and we're throwing a up you Ethereum. Here's all the maximalists, and we're throwing a party, 350 people. We've sold maybe 100 tickets so far. We're getting sponsors, but it's going to be a blast.
When is the date?
I think it's the first weekend in June.
Okay.
So people should go to BitBlockParty.com and they can check that. But I think it's going to be great. And what we're doing is we're setting up a stage. And so we'll have a party. I seem to be good at throwing parties.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
We're going to have a great party when we have a stage set up and we have a DJ, but every 30 minutes he stops and we'll have American Hodl comes on for 10 minutes on stage.
Yeah, he's great.
And this bashing crap coins. And then I want to try to get Max there. I haven't talked to Max, but I want to get people there who can do some good bashing and get the crowd going and stuff. Like instead of a comedian coming out, it's a Bitcoiner coming out.
Yeah, no. If you could get Max, no one wants to see a comedian at that. They want to see Max Kaiser. They want to see Raoul Paul.
American Hodl.
No, he's funny. He's great. He's great. But anyhow,
so that's the plan. But I don't want to fool anyone. I don't have Max set up yet, but I'm trying to get him next.
Dude,
that's my next person.
Dude, you're gonna pull it off, and it's gonna be amazing. And you and I both know it. So
I think it is going to be amazing. I do.
Gary,
I think you know what I've sold enough tickets now. I'll have a great time, and if I'm down a little bit, I don't care. I'm going to have a great time. I got a party now. I got enough people for a party.
Hey, I can't thank you enough for giving us the time today and just being so raw with us. Thank you, Garry Leland.
Everybody. I appreciate you inviting me. Yeah, thanks. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Travis, my engineer.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, and of course my co-host. Partner in crime at the recruiting firm, Dave Hampton, Robo Recruiter. Thank you very much. And remember, everybody, get whisper.